Do you really think that staying silent for another month will make everyone forget that your father was in prison?" Nick's voice cut through the crisp autumn air of the schoolyard, like a sharp blade slicing the silence. Lily froze, caught like a trapped deer, clutching her stack of textbooks so tightly that her knuckles turned pale. Around her, a crowd of classmates was slowly but inevitably gathering, eagerly hanging on every word of this deliberate and merciless torment. Their faces glowed with an unhealthy curiosity. Their eyes sparkled with anticipation of some sort of downfall. "Please don't," she whispered, her voice trembling like an autumn leaf caught in the wind. "I beg you, Nick, stop." Nick slowly pulled his phone from his pocket, holding it like a weapon, as if it were his last trump card in a game that was meant to bring him a complete victory. And here was the police report. Thomas Johnson, case number 84,321. "Want me to read everyone the details of what your daddy did?" Victoria stood by the school entrance, watching the drama unfold, feeling something tighten painfully inside her because she recognized her own nightmares in this scene. The fear of the day when the truth about her family would also become public knowledge, when her own secrets would be put on display like merchandise in a clearance sale. She saw Lily shrinking slowly, becoming smaller as if trying to disappear, to dissolve into thin air. She saw the tears the girl desperately tried to hold back. She saw the triumphant smile on Nick's face, who Victoria savored every moment of another's humiliation. At that precise instant, she realized the time had come to make a choice, a moment that would shape who she would become and what she would carry with her for the rest of her life. What follows promises to be the most captivating part. Stay with us to discover how everything unfolded. Meanwhile, do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss out. It was August, the final days of summer. Victoria Stanford sat on the terrace of her $8 million home, gazing at the immaculately maintained garden where gardeners watered the rose collection belonging to her mother. Each flower was worth more than many families spent on food for an entire month. But Victoria's mind was elsewhere. She faced other concerns. In her hands, she held a letter from St. Margaret's School, an invitation to the prestigious ceremony marking the start of a new academic year. This elite private academy, located in the heart of Beverly Hills, charged $60,000 annually and educated children of Hollywood stars, producers, plastic surgeons, and top-tier lawyers. Victoria had been attending since the age of 5. This place was her second home, a source of identity and a symbol of belonging to an exclusive group. However, that summer, something had shifted. Something inside the house felt off, and the 14-year-old girl sensed it deeply, through every fiber of her being. Although she did not yet grasp the full scale of the impending disaster, her parents believed they had managed to conceal their troubles well. Patricia Stanford, her mother, still smiled at charity galas and organized fundraising events for museums, maintaining the appearance of grace. She used to buy designer dresses. Her father, Dr. Richard Stanford, still commuted to his clinic in the heart of Beverly Hills, where he performed facelifts on millionaires' wives and breast augmentations on aspiring actresses. But Victoria noticed the little things. Her parents stopped discussing their plans for a vacation in Europe. Her mother began scrutinizing the electric bills, something she had never done before. Her father started coming home later, looking increasingly exhausted and even irritable. There were also those late-night conversations, voices muted, fading away whenever Victoria came down to the kitchen for a glass of water. Words she did not understand, like lawsuit, insurance, bank, mortgage, but she clearly sensed the tone. It was the voice of people drowning and desperately searching for a way out. "Victoria, dear," her mother's voice broke through her thoughts. Patricia stepped onto the terrace, holding a glass of white wine at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. She had never drunk during the day before. "Hey, Mom," Are you ready for the new school year? Ready. And you? Patricia looked surprised at her daughter's question. What do you mean? Are you ready for the new school year? To pay for my tuition? Her mother's face instantly tightened. Victoria, what are you talking about? Mom, I am not blind. Something is happening. Something bad. Patricia sank into the chair next to her daughter and took a long sip of wine. Honey, adults sometimes face difficulties. What kind of difficulties? Her mother remained silent for a moment, fighting with herself before admitting a half-truth. Your father is having trouble at work. One of his patients is unhappy. The outcome of the surgery led to a lawsuit. This could affect our family. How deeply? We will manage, Patricia said, though her voice lacked conviction. We always find a way. Victoria nodded, yet inside her chest tightened with a sense of impending trouble. Her mother did not reveal the crucial detail, but what was said was enough to understand that their world teetered on the edge of a chasm. On that very same day, about 20 miles away, in a small rented apartment in the Pike Union neighborhood, 14-year-old Lily Johnson was also getting ready for the new school year, but her preparations were entirely different from Victoria Stanford's. Lily sat on the floor of her tiny room, which she shared with her younger brother, counting the school supplies purchased at a discount store during a sale. Notebooks priced at $1 each. Pens sold in a pack of 12 for $3. A backpack that looked decent but was made from the cheapest materials. On the bed lay her school uniform, a white shirt, a dark blue skirt, and a blue blazer. Everything had been bought secondhand, but carefully washed and ironed by her mother. The uniform was required for St. Margaret's School, where Lily was supposed to start a week later. St. Margaret was an elite private academy, a place Lily had learned about merely 3 months earlier when she received a letter informing her that she was among 5 students selected through a special program for gifted children from low-income families. The program was an initiative by the school's Board of Trustees, designed as a means to demonstrate social responsibility and receive tax benefits. Every year, the school selected several children with outstanding academic talents from underprivileged neighborhoods and granted them a full scholarship. Lily earned her place in the program because of her remarkable grades at the public school, her inspiring story of overcoming challenges, and the recommendations from teachers who described her as one of the most gifted students in their entire careers. Yet now, holding her class schedule, she felt not joy but dread. How would she fit in among children of millionaires? How could she relate to those who spend more on lunch than her entire family does in a week? Lily, dear, her mother, Susan Johnson, aged 42, who looked older than her years due to years of hard physical work and constant stress, entered the room. Despite the signs of struggle on her face, her eyes sparkled with love for her daughter. Hi, Mom. How is the preparation going? Fine, Mom. Are you sure I will manage in this school? Susan sat down beside her daughter on the floor. Lily, you are the smartest girl I know. You will handle everything. But they are all wealthy there, and we are just a regular family going through difficult times. That does not make us less, just different. Lily nodded, yet her doubts remained. She knew her family's story better than she wanted, understood why they lived in a cramped apartment, why her mother worked 2 jobs, and why they bought clothes at thrift stores. 3 years ago, their life had been. The situation changed completely. Thomas Johnson, Nick's father, was employed at a large mortgage company, earning a good income, and the family lived in a decent house in the suburbs. Lily attended a reputable school and took ballet classes. She had friends and dreams for her future. Then everything came crashing down. Thomas was arrested on charges of involvement in mortgage fraud. It turned out the company where he worked routinely inflated clients' incomes, on documents to help them secure loans they could not actually afford. When the housing bubble burst and hundreds of families lost their homes, the prosecutors launched an investigation. Thomas could have denied his involvement and shifted the blame onto his superiors. However, he chose a different path. He told investigators everything he knew, assisted in reconstructing the full picture, and agreed to testify against the main architects of the scheme. This did not save him from prison, but it resulted in a lighter sentence, 2 years instead of a possible 10. His cooperation helped the prosecution bring the true masterminds to justice, those responsible for destroying thousands of families' lives. For the Johnson family, however, this was a catastrophe. Thomas lost his job and was convicted. Susan was dismissed from the school where she taught because parents did not want their children to be taught by a convicted criminal's wife. The house had to be sold to pay the lawyers. The family moved to a cheap apartment and began again from scratch. Thomas spent 2 years in prison, was released 6 months ago, and now worked in construction, earning a minimum wage. Susan, she worked as a cleaner in an office building during the daytime and at a dry cleaner in the evenings. They barely managed to make ends meet but never gave up. Lily felt proud of her father. Yes, he made a mistake, but he acknowledged it, faced the consequences, and helped justice prevail. That took courage many lack. Yet she also knew that at the elite school she was about to attend, few would share her view. "Mom," she said, "what if they find out about Dad?" "And what if they do?" Susan replied. "We are not ashamed of our family, Lily. Dad erred, but he is a man of honor. And you? You are a smart, kind girl who deserves the best education. If they look down on me, then they are not worthy of your friendship. True friends do not turn away because of family history." Lily wanted to believe her mother, but fear lingered. Meanwhile, at the Harrison mansion in the most prestigious area of Beverly Hills, 17-year-old Nick Harrison was playing tennis on his private court with a professional coach. Tall, athletic, with sharp features and a confident smile, he embodied the American dream of privileged youth. Nick's father, James Harrison, was one of Hollywood's most powerful producers. His films earned billions worldwide, and his name appeared in movies winning Oscars. His mother, Isabella, was a famous actress of the 90s who smoothly transitioned into a socialite and philanthropist. Nick grew up surrounded by limitless opportunities, the finest schools, the best instructors, the greatest opportunities. His life was scheduled down to the last minute. A morning jog with a private coach, breakfast made by his personal chef, a ride to school in one of the 3 family cars. Today, it was the Tesla Model S, studying at St. Margaret, extra classes, training sessions. After graduation, Harvard or Stanford awaited him. His father had already secured his admission, then an internship at a film studio, and a brilliant career in the family business. Everything was predetermined. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Yet inside Nick, a strange feeling of emptiness was growing. He received everything he wanted without much effort. Girls fell for him because of the family's status. Boys befriended him, hoping for invitations to parties and meetings with actresses. Teachers gave him good grades, mindful of the Harrison family's generous donations to the school. Everything came too easily. Far too easily. "Great shot, Nick," the coach shouted. "Are you ready for the school tournament?" "Of course I am," Nick replied, though there was no enthusiasm in his voice. He would win this tournament just like all the others, not because he was the best tennis player, but because the family sponsored the court's construction, and no one dared to defeat the son of the main benefactor. Nick was tired of victories he did not have to earn, tired of respect that was bought with money, tired of a life where everything was predictable and dull. He longed for something real, a genuine challenge, authentic emotions, and true relationships. But he did not know where to find it in a world where everything is bought and sold. At least not yet. September came. New faces appeared while old rules remained. On the 1st of September, St. Margaret School filled with the familiar chaos, marking the start of the school year. Children stepped out of expensive cars lining the entrance in an endless parade of Porsche, Mercedes, BMW, and Audi vehicles, their combined worth amounting to several $1,000,000. Victoria arrived in her own compact coupe, a birthday gift from her parents for her 14th birthday. The car was modest compared to many others, but still valued at $45,000, a sum that could support an average family for an entire year. She parked in her usual spot and headed inside, greeting friends she had not seen all summer. Rachel Miller had just come back from a 3-month cultural tour of Europe with a personal art tutor. Alex Toya spent the summer in Asia, diving into his ancestors' culture and perfecting martial arts skills. Wendy Lopez enjoyed her vacation aboard the family yacht in the Mediterranean Sea. Everyone appeared suntanned, relaxed, and joyful, sharing tales of adventures, shopping sprees, and new acquaintances. Victoria listened and tried to show interest, but her mind was elsewhere. That morning, her parents had argued again, louder than usual. She overheard words like bankruptcy and home mortgage. Her mother was crying, while her father shouted about injustice and a ruined career. Then silence fell, and her parents emerged for breakfast wearing forced smiles, pretending that everything was fine. Yet Victoria noticed her mother's eyes red beneath carefully applied makeup, and her father's nervous tic that jerked the corner of his mouth whenever he felt anxious. Victoria's thoughts were interrupted by Nick's voice. "How are things? How has your summer been?" She turned around and saw his flawless smile, his stylish haircut, and the perfectly fitting school uniform. Nick had always been the embodiment of confidence and success. Today, that irritated her more than usual. "Fine," she replied shortly. "Just fine." Nick raised an eyebrow. "I thought you and your parents went to Tuscany." "Plans changed." "Too bad." "Well, there's a whole year of fun ahead here at good old St. Margaret." He patted her shoulder and moved on, surrounded by a crowd of admiring younger students and girls who dreamed of catching his attention. Victoria watched him walk away and wondered what it must be like to live without worries, never to know fear, never to lose everything you have. At that very moment, a worn city bus pulled up to the main school entrance. From it stepped a girl in a neat but clearly well-worn school uniform, carrying a cheap backpack over one shoulder, her hair carefully braided. Lily stood before the majestic building of St. Margaret and felt like Alice, who had fallen down the rabbit hole. Marble columns, stained glass windows, manicured lawns, and fountains in the courtyard center. Everything resembled a palace rather than an ordinary school. Around her, children in expensive clothes bustled about, speaking about things unfamiliar to her world. Some people were chatting about the new Chanel collection. Others were making plans for a weekend at the family house in Osapina, and someone was boasting about knowing some actress. Lily tightened the straps of her backpack and moved toward the entrance, trying not to draw any attention. The plan was simple: find the administration, get the schedule, reach the first class, and somehow make it through the day. "You are new." The voice made her turn around. In front of her stood a girl about her age, with long blonde hair and intelligent gray eyes. Beautiful, confident, clearly a local. "Yes," Lily replied cautiously. "Lily Johnson, Victoria Stanford." "Welcome to St. Margaret, thank you. Need help finding your way around? This place can feel like a maze." Lily hesitated. On one hand, she really did need assistance. On the other, she did not want to owe anyone, especially on her first day. "Do not worry about troubling us. None at all. We have all been new once." "Okay," Lily agreed. "Thanks." Victoria guided her to the administrative wing, sharing stories about the school teachers and traditions along the way. She spoke naturally without any arrogance, as if she truly wanted to help. "Where did you move from?" Victoria asked as they walked down the hallway. "From downtown Los Angeles," Lily answered carefully. "Do your parents work in entertainment?" "No. Dad works in construction, and Mom is between jobs right now." That was true, though, only part of the story. Thomas really worked in the construction work and general labor setup. Susan truly found herself caught between jobs, switching from a daytime cleaning shift to an evening position at the dry cleaners. "I see," Victoria nodded without any hint of judgment in her voice. "So, you are here under an academic program?" "Yes," came the reply. "That is great. You must be very intelligent." Lily did not know how to respond and simply smiled. They arrived at the administration office, where Lily received her schedule, a school map, and a stack of documents to complete. Victoria patiently waited as she sorted through the paperwork. "The first class is English literature with Mrs. Anderson," Lily said, reviewing her schedule. "Room 215. Perfect. I have that too. Let us go together." On the way, they encountered a group of upperclassmen led by Nick Harrison. He was chatting with friends about weekend plans, but turned to approach them upon noticing Victoria. "Victoria, who is your new friend?" he asked, with a smile that did not quite reach his eyes. "Nick, meet Lily Johnson." "Lily, this is Nick Harrison." "Nice to meet you," said Nick, extending his hand. Lily shook it, sensing the strength of his grip and the scrutinizing look from his gray eyes. "Likewise. Johnson, unfamiliar last name. Are you from California?" "Yes, from Los Angeles." "And your parents are in the film industry?" "No." "Music, then?" "No." "Then what?" Lily felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment. Nick's questions came with a smile, yet there was something unpleasant beneath them. It was as if he tried to assign her a place within the school hierarchy by slotting her into some category. "My dad," she repeated, "works in construction." "Ah, I see," said Nick, a faint chill creeping into his voice. "Well then, welcome to St. Margaret." He turned and walked away, leading his entourage along. Lily noticed him whispering something to his Asian friend, wearing expensive glasses, and the boy kept glancing back at her. "Don't pay attention," Victoria said. "Nick can be peculiar with newcomers." "Is he always like that?" "Unfortunately, yes. He acts as if the whole world revolves around him." "Why does everyone obey him then?" "Because his father is one of the most powerful producers in Hollywood. Money rules this place." Lily nodded, but inside a knot tightened. Something. She had just learned her very first lesson about how the world really worked. The English literature class went smoothly. Mrs. Anderson, a middle-aged teacher with kind eyes, introduced Lily to the class and gave her time to settle in. Lily sat in the back row, trying not to draw attention, and listened to the discussion about summer reading. Most students clearly hadn't read the assigned books, relying instead on online summaries. Lily had read every single one and could have contributed actively, but chose to stay silent. Only when Mrs. Anderson directly asked her about the symbolism in The Great Gatsby did she speak up. "I think the green light at the end of the dock represents an unattainable dream," she said softly. "Gatsby reaches for it, but can never grasp it, achieving it. Like the American dream, Spera is always close, yet always just beyond reach." The class fell silent. This was not a shallow analysis that students usually gave. It was a profound understanding of the text. "Excellent observation, Miss Johnson," said Mrs. Anderson with a smile. "What do you think about why Fitzgerald chose the color green?" "The color of money," Lily replied, "but also the color of hope and growth. Gatsby believes money will bring him happiness, but in the end, it destroys him. Superb. Would anyone like to expand on that idea?" The other students were silent. Some looked at Lily with surprise, others with barely concealed irritation. Top students do not like competition, especially from newcomers. After class, Victoria approached Lily. "Wow, you really are smart. I just love reading. Around here, that is rare. Most kids are more interested in gossip than books." They walked down the hallway to their next lesson when Nick passed by with his friends. He glanced at Lily. A quick, evaluating look. Not very friendly. "The new girl knows her literature," he said to his friend loud enough for Lily to hear. "I wonder what else she knows." There was mockery in his voice that made Lily shiver. Lunch break was the first real challenge. The St. Margaret cafeteria resembled a high-class restaurant. Marble tables, crystal chandeliers, waiters in uniform. Students could order almost any dish, and all of it was exquisite. The cost of education included meals. Lily waited in line, scanning the menu, trying to find something familiar. Around her, children discussed the merits of different dishes, with the same serious tone their parents used when talking about wine lists in fancy restaurants. "Lobster is pretty good today," said the girl in front of her to her friend. "But I think I'll go with the Dorada instead. Yesterday she had lobster at home." Lily chose a simple turkey sandwich and juice, although she could have picked something fancier. She was afraid, not knowing how to properly eat an unfamiliar dish and becoming the target of ridicule. She sat at an empty table in the corner of the cafeteria and took out a book, hoping that reading would help her avoid awkward moments. Yet loneliness was too obvious in a dining room where everyone was sitting in groups, chatting and laughing energetically. "May I join you?" A voice made her look up. Victoria stood there with a tray. Of course, Victoria sat across from her, and Lily felt relief. At least she would not appear completely isolated. It was the first day, and things felt normal. Everything was very impressive, but she would get used to it. The important thing was not to let anyone intimidate her. Someone was trying to scare her. Victoria glanced toward the table where Nick sat with his friends. He was animatedly talking about something, occasionally glancing their way. "Nick is interested in you. That can be both good and bad," Victoria said. "In what way?" Lily asked. "If he likes you, you could become part of his circle. That would open many doors. But if he does not, well, he might make your life difficult." "And do you? Do you like him?" Victoria wondered. She used to like him. He can be charming when he wants to, but lately, not so much. "I do not know. Something in him has changed. He has become tougher. Maybe he is just spoiled. Could be. Or perhaps he is simply tired of everything coming too easily." Lily nodded, but did not fully understand. It was hard for her to imagine that an easy life could be a problem. The day ended without any major events. Lily managed her lessons well, did not embarrass herself, and avoided attracting unnecessary attention. It seemed like her adjustment was going better than she feared. But when she got on the bus home, she heard Nick's voice. "Interesting girl. She's new here." "What do you mean?" asked his friend Bill. "Too smart, too confident. I do not like mysteries. Maybe just leave her alone?" "No, Bill. No one comes to my school and acts like they are better than everyone else. She does not act like that." "She does. I saw how she answered in literature class, how she looked at us during lunch, like we are all idiots. Nick, I think you are exaggerating." "We will see. Everyone can be figured out if you know which buttons to press." Lily heard this conversation through the open bus window and felt a cold wave spreading through her stomach. It seemed that Nick Harrison saw her as a threat, and considering his status in school, this could mean trouble. Big trouble. When she got home, her mother asked how her first day went. "Fine," Lily replied, deciding, not sharing her worries. Lily had made a friend. Just one girl named Victoria. She treated me kindly. That was comforting. You see, things were not as frightening as you imagined. Lily nodded and smiled, yet a sense of unease lingered within her. She felt that this first day was merely a beginning. The real challenges lay ahead. October, Persia. A fissure. October in Los Angeles was always a deceptive month. During the day, the temperature warmed up to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. The sun shone as brightly as it did in summer. Yet in the mornings, a chill could be felt, reminding everyone that winter was approaching. For the city's residents, it was a time of change, both outside and within themselves. For the Stanford family, October became a month when pretending was no longer an option. The lawyers brought grim news. The plaintiff refused the settlement offer and demanded a full court trial. Furthermore, she filed an additional claim for emotional damages, raising the sum sought to $3 million. "Richard, we have to be realistic," Patricia said at breakfast, while Victoria was still asleep. "We cannot afford such a defense." "What do you suggest? Giving up? Admitting guilt for something I did not do?" "I suggest we think about the family, about our daughter, about the future. Our future depends on the outcome of this case." "No, Richard. Our future depends on how we deal with it. If we lose everything because of your pride." The conversation was interrupted by a phone call from the bank. The manager politely but firmly reminded them about the mortgage payments were overdue. The family had 60 days to settle the debt, or the bank would initiate foreclosure proceedings. Patricia hung up the phone and looked at her husband. "Do you understand now?" Richard buried his face in his hands and admitted, "I have no idea what to do. You just do not want to accept it." At school, Victoria tried to focus on her studies, but her mind kept drifting back to the problems at home. She began noticing details that previously went unnoticed, like how classmates talked about money and how easily they spent amounts that could save her family for months. Rachel Miller was bragging about a new Louis Vuitton bag worth $8,000. Alex Toya was planning a trip to Japan for the autumn break. Nadi Lopez had ordered a dress for the school dance costing $15,000. Each of these sums could have resolved the Stanford family's difficulties for a long time, but to Victoria's classmates, these were trivial expenses not worth serious concern. Victoria started avoiding discussions about money, holiday plans, and shopping. When friends asked about her plans, she gave vague answers, claiming to be busy or unwilling to travel. "You have been acting weird lately," Rachel told her during lunch. "Did something happen?" "Everything is fine, just a lot going on," Victoria replied. "What kind of things?" "We are at school, not university." "Family matters," Victoria said quietly. Rachel wanted to ask for more details, but just then, Lily approached their table. Over the month of school, Lily had become a frequent companion. Victoria and the others gradually grew accustomed to her presence. "May I sit down?" she asked. "Of course," Victoria replied, relieved to change the subject. Lily took a seat and pulled out her usual homemade sandwich. In the whole month at St. Margaret, she had never ordered anything from the restaurant menu. She always brought food from home. Some people noticed this and whispered behind her back, but Lily pretended not to care. "How is the adjustment going?" Rachel asked, her curiosity evident. "Good. Everyone is very friendly," Victoria corrected, glancing toward Nick's table. Nick Harrison indeed showed a particular interest in Lily, but not the kind she would want. He observed her like an entomologist examines an insect under a microscope, watching her habits, overhearing her conversations, and cautiously asking mutual acquaintances about her. Over the month, he had learned many intriguing details. Lily never spoke about her home or family, avoided discussions about her past, and did not participate in school activities that required extra expenses. She wore the same simple clothes in different combinations. All of this pointed to one thing: the girl was hiding poverty. And in St. Margaret's world, poverty was considered a sin worse than any crime. "Lily," he said, approaching their table with his friends, "I have a proposition." The girl looked at him warily. "What kind?" "Next weekend I'm having a party at my house. Want to come?" Lily was silent for a moment. Receiving an invitation from Nick Harrison was a great honor in the social hierarchy. St. Margaret. But something about his smile felt unsettling. Thank you, but I cannot. Why? Family matters. What kind of matters could be more important than meeting new people? Various reasons. All right then, Nick shrugged. Maybe another time. He walked away. Yet Lily noticed how he exchanged glances with his friends. Those looks carried an unspoken understanding. She had not declined because of family issues, but because she could not afford a gift or the right outfit for such an event. After lunch, Victoria approached Lily. Why did you say no? Nick's parties are serious. All the important people in school will be there. Exactly why I don't want to pretend to be someone I am not. And who are you? Lily gave her a long gaze, like a girl who feels she does not belong in this world. The longer I stay here, the clearer that becomes. Lily, Victoria, you are kind to me. But let's face it, in this place, I am an outsider, and sooner or later everyone will realize that. Victoria wanted to argue, but found no words, because to be honest with herself, she was beginning to understand the same about herself. That evening, a new crisis erupted at home. The insurance company officially refused to cover the protection and search costs, citing procedural documentation violations. This meant the family would have to pay lawyers out of their own pocket. We cannot afford this, Patricia told her husband. Richard, we need to seriously discuss our options. What options? Selling the house, changing Victoria's school, moving to a more affordable place. A cheap place. Do you want us to run away with our tails between our legs? I want us to survive. Victoria overheard this conversation from her room and felt her seemingly unshakable world crumble. Selling the house, changing schools, the end of her usual life. Strangely, she did not feel panic. Instead, there was a sense of relief. Finally, she could stop pretending, stop fearing exposure, and begin to live honestly. The next day at school, she looked at the surrounding luxury differently. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, paintings on the walls. None of it felt like a natural part of her world anymore. It was all just a facade hiding the real life behind it. During history class, Mr. Wilson spoke about the Great Depression, how families lost their homes, how rich children suddenly found themselves standing in lines for free food, how seemingly invincible states fell apart. Economic crises reveal the true character of people, he said. Some break under the weight of circumstances. Others find the strength to start over. Victoria listened and wondered which group she and her family would belong to. After class, Lily approached her. Do you want to talk? She asked softly. About what? Victoria hesitated. Opening up to Lily meant admitting that her family was not as well off as they appeared. Yet maybe it was time to stop carrying this burden alone. Not here, she said. Let's go to the library. The St. Margaret Library was a place rarely crowded. Most students preferred the internet over books, and the silence along with the academic atmosphere did not encourage casual conversations. They sat down in a remote corner between shelves filled with classical literature. What is going on? Lily asked softly. Victoria was silent for a while, carefully choosing her words. My family. We have problems, financial problems, very serious ones. We might lose our house. I might not finish this school. Lily nodded without showing surprise. Aren't you surprised? No. I sensed something was wrong. You have changed lately. How? More genuine. You play less of a role. Victoria was surprised by this insight. And you will not despise me? Because I am not as wealthy as it seemed. Lily laughed, but her laughter was sad. Victoria, do you know where I come from? We live in an apartment that costs $600 a month in a neighborhood where police patrol in bulletproof vests. My mother works as a cleaning lady, And my father, he just got out of prison. Victoria looked at her in shock. My father was in jail for 2 years for mortgage fraud. I am here only because I received a scholarship for children from poor families. Lily, so trust me, I will not look down on you for financial difficulties. I know what that is. Victoria was silent, processing this revelation. The girl she had befriended came from a completely different world, a world she had never known existed. She had only known him in theory, but had never met him personally. Why did you never tell me? For the same reason you never spoke about your problems, because you were afraid everything would change. And it did change. What about you? Victoria wondered if anything really shifted after learning the truth about Lily. Yes, something did, but not for the worse. No, she said. On the contrary, now I understand why you are so strong. Strong? Yes. Coming here every day knowing you do not belong, enduring condescending stares, proving your right to exist. That is not strength, Victoria. That is survival. Maybe it is the same thing. They sat quietly, both reflecting on how quickly life can turn and how crucial it is to have someone who truly understands your pain. You know what is the scariest thing? Victoria said. What? Losing money or your home? No. Losing yourself. Realizing you spent your whole life playing a role instead of really living. And now you live for real. I'm trying to learn. Lily smiled. Then welcome to the real world. It is scarier, but more honest. At that moment, Nick walked into the library with 2 friends. Seeing the girls, he headed over. Oh, our intellectual, he teased. Discussing high literature or something like that, Victoria replied. Lily, I keep thinking about your refusal to come to the party. Are you sure you will not change your mind? I'm sure. Too bad. But maybe you could tell me what is holding you back. What exactly is it? Family matters? A subtle tone crept into his voice that made Lily uneasy. Private matters. I understand. Sometimes we all feel embarrassed about our families. I'm not ashamed of mine. Really? Then why do you never talk about it? Because it is nobody's business. Nick smiled, but his expression was cold. In St. Margaret, everyone is connected. We are like one big family, and families should not keep secrets from each other. Nick, leave her alone, Victoria intervened. And you, are you her lawyer? I am her friend. I wonder, do your parents know who you are friends with? Victoria felt a flush rise to her cheeks. What do you mean? Nothing special. I just think Dr. and Mrs. Stanford would be surprised by some facts about your friend's family past. Lily paled. That meant he knew or suspected something. What facts? Victoria asked. That's not for me to say, Nick replied. Let Lily tell if she wants to be honest with her friends. He turned and walked away, leaving the girls in uneasy silence. What does he know? Whispered Victoria. I don't know. But no matter what, Lily, it won't change anything between us. Maybe not for you, but for everyone else. She left the sentence unfinished. Victoria understood that if Nick truly knew the truth about Lily's family, he could use it as a weapon. And in St. Margaret, reputation was everything. The girls left the library, both realizing that the days ahead would be far from simple. The days of their friendship were drawing to a close. Ahead of them lay challenges that would test not only their relationship, but also their inner strength. Nick Harrison watched them from the hallway window and smiled. He did not yet know the full truth about Lily's family, but he sensed he was close to uncovering it. When he did find out, he intended to show this arrogant new girl what it meant to ignore the son of James Harrison. The game had just begun, and Nick was determined to win. November brought investigation and revelation. November rains in Los Angeles were uncommon, yet when they arrived, They transformed the sunny city into a gloomy and gray place. Every street glistened with water, and the sky bore down with a heavy, leaden weight. Even the most glamorous neighborhoods lost their sparkle in such weather, revealing the harsh reality hidden beneath the veneer of wealth and success. For Nick Harrison, November became a month of pursuit. He spent 2 weeks gathering information about Lily Johnson, using every resource available to him. At first, he searched social media, but Lily was careful. No pictures of her home, no family references, no clues about her past. Frustrated, he turned to his father for help. James Harrison was busy preparing for the premiere of a new film, but made time to listen to his son's request. "I need information about a particular family for a school project," Nick said, while seated in his father's lavish office at the Johnson Studio downtown Los Angeles. "What kind of information exactly?" "Well, biography, workplaces, that sort of thing." What did they used to do for sociological studies about different social classes? James nodded without going into detail. He had more important matters than his son's school projects. "Contact Mark Stevens. He is our corporate detective. Say it is on my behalf," he said. Nick got the contact and met Stevens in his downtown office the next day. Mark Stevens was a man around 50 years old, with tired eyes and a cynical smile of someone who had seen too much of Hollywood elite's dirty laundry. "So, you need information on the Johnson family?" he asked, flipping through notes in his notebook. "Yes, especially about the father, Thomas Johnson." "Why would a boy from a good family need that?" Stevens questioned. Nick sensed that the detective was sharper than he seemed at first glance. "It is for a school project on social mobility," Nick explained. "All right then, let's see what I can uncover." Stevens approached the task professionally. He had contacts in the police, judiciary, and credit bureaus. A week later, he called Nick. "The information is ready. Come over," he said. Nick rushed to the detective's office, eager like a predator sensing its prey. "So, what do you have?" he asked as soon as he entered. Stevens laid a thick folder on the table. "An interesting family. Thomas Johnson, aged 45, formerly employed at Golden State Mortgage, was convicted 3 years ago for mortgage fraud and spent 2 years in federal prison on Terminal Island." Nick felt a rush of adrenaline. The father was a criminal. That was shocking. Better than he had dared to imagine. "Keep going." Susan Johnson, aged 42, the wife, was a former elementary school teacher who lost her job following her husband's arrest. At present, she works as a cleaner in an office complex located in Century City, and also takes on extra shifts at Clemaster Dry Cleaners in the Pico Union area. Their daughter Lily Johnson, aged 14, attended Roosevelt Public School until September this year. She is now enrolled at St. Margaret's Private Academy under a scholarship program designed for children from low-income families. Stevens pulled out several additional documents. The family lost their home in Glendale during the court case and is currently renting a 2-room apartment in a building on a street he described as one of the most troubled neighborhoods in the city. Nick studied the files, feeling his excitement rise. This was gold. A criminal father, a mother working as a cleaner, a life in the ghetto. Lily Johnson was not just a poor girl, but the daughter of a convicted fraudster. Are there details about the crime? Naturally. Stevens retrieved another folder. Thomas Johnson had been employed as a credit manager at Golden State Mortgage, a company specializing in subprime home loans to low-income clients. Johnson habitually inflated the clients' incomes in paperwork to help them qualify for loans they could not afford. And when the housing market collapsed, hundreds of families lost their homes. Many took legal action. An investigation began. Johnson could have denied all accusations or blamed his superiors, but he chose to cooperate with. As a consequence, he revealed everything he knew and helped bring the main masterminds behind the scheme to justice. So, he was a snitch, one might say. Although his lawyer claimed that he regretted his actions, and wanted to assist Justice. Nick smirked. In his view, someone who turned in their accomplices was even worse than an ordinary criminal. "How much do I owe you?" "Your father has already paid." "But kid, let me offer some advice from someone who has seen a lot of dirt. Be careful how you use this information." "What do you mean?" "The Johnson family has already paid for the father's mistakes. The girl you are asking about is not to blame for what her parent did." "Of course, she is not to blame," Nick agreed, but there was a false note in his voice. Stevens looked at him intently. "Nick, you are not going to use this information to harm the child, are you?" "What? This is just for a school project." The detective did not seem convinced, but said nothing. He had done his job and got paid. What happened next was not his concern. Nick left the office feeling completely triumphant. Now, he had the weapon against the arrogant newcomer. All that remained was to choose the right moment to strike. Meanwhile, Victoria Stanford was going through her own crisis. The family situation kept deteriorating. The bank had officially started the foreclosure proceedings on the house. The family had 90 days to repay the debt or lose their home. "We need to make decisions," Patricia told her husband at dinner, and they had to do it quickly. "What decisions?" Richard asked wearily. "Selling the house, relocating, changing schools for Victoria. Patricia, this is our life. We cannot simply abandon everything. We are not quitting. We are trying to save what still can be saved." Victoria listened quietly at the table, feeling a strange detachment, as if they were discussing someone else's life and not her own future. "What if I do not mind changing schools?" she said. Her parents exchanged surprised looks. "Victoria, do you realize what that implies?" her mother asked. "A public school, different children, a different way of life." "I understand, and I believe it could be for the best. Why?" Victoria pondered how to explain to her parents that the recent months at St. Margaret had opened her eyes to many truths, that she was tired of the pretense, the endless race for status. She just wanted to discover who she truly was, without all the facades. Richard and Patricia exchanged glances. Their 14-year-old daughter was expressing thoughts many adults only grasp, well into their 40s. "Are you sure?" her mother asked. "No, but I think uncertainty is better than lies." That evening, Victoria spoke at length with Lily on the phone. Their friendship was growing stronger day by day, based on mutual understanding and honesty. "Do you know what is the strangest?" Victoria said. "I used to fear people finding out about our troubles, but now I do not care." "Why?" "Because I realize those who turn away from me because of our situation are not worth my time. Money is not worth my attention, and those who stay are true friends." This is the right mindset, but in our school, such people are rare. There is you, and then there is you. But sometimes that is not enough, especially if Nick really knows something about my family and decides to use it. Victoria was silent. Over the past weeks, she had noticed how Nick looked at Lily. His gaze was predatory, yet patient, as if waiting for the perfect moment to strike. "Lily, whatever happens, we will handle this." "Are you sure?" "No, but we will try." The next day at school, an incident revealed how fragile Lily's position was in St. Margaret's social hierarchy. During history class, Mr. Wilson assigned homework to write an essay about the effects of economic crises on families. Lily raised her hand. "Sir, can I clarify the formatting requirements?" "Standard requirements, Miss Johnson, as always." "May I handwrite it?" "I do not have a printer at home." The classroom fell silent. In the 21st century, not having a printer at home was almost unimaginable for St. Margaret students. "Of course you may," Mr. Wilson said, though his voice carried some discomfort. After the lesson, several students surrounded Lily. "You do not have a printer at home?" Wendy Lopez asked, barely hiding her surprise. "No, I have an old laptop, but no printer." "Without a printer." The children exchanged glances, unsure what to say. For them, the absence of a printer was as shocking as the absence of electricity. "Where do you usually type your assignments?" asked Alex, standing. "In the library? Are there computers for public use there?" "At the public library?" "Yes." Another awkward silence followed. The public libraries for children in St. Margaret were just an abstract idea to them. Their families had personal libraries, expensive computers, and home offices. Nick, who had been watching this from afar, felt a sense of satisfaction. Lily's own situation revealed her poverty without his intervention. "Do you want me to lend you my portable printer?" offered Rachel, trying to ease the tension. "Thanks, but no need. I'm used to it. But that is inconvenient." "I'm fine." Lily hurried away, feeling the sympathetic gazes on her. Sympathy was almost worse than contempt. Victoria caught up with her in the hallway. "Don't pay attention." "To what? That I can't afford a $100 printer? They just don't get it." "That is the problem, Victoria. They live in a world where a printer is taken for granted. I live in a world where every $100 means food for a week. So what if I don't belong here? The longer I stay, the clearer it becomes." That evening at home, Lily told her mother what had happened. Maybe I should ask to transfer to a regular school, she wondered. Susan put down the cloth she was using to wipe the table after dinner and sat beside her daughter. "Lily, you have received an opportunity that thousands of children dream of, education at St. Margaret. It will open doors for you that would have otherwise remained shut. But at what cost? Every day I feel like an imposter." "Do you know how I felt when they fired me from the school?" the mother asked. "Shame, anger, a strong desire to hide from the entire world. And what helped you? The realization that I am not responsible for other people's mistakes, that my worth as a person does not depend on others' opinions. But people judge. People always judge, darling. The rich criticize the poor for not trying hard enough. The poor judge the rich for not appreciating what they have. Yet, in the end, only one thing truly matters: how you see yourself. And how do you see yourself?" Susan smiled. "As a woman who works honestly, loves her family, and does not give up in the face of challenges. That gives me the right to hold my head high no matter what others think." Lily hugged her mother. "I love you, Mom, and because of that, I beg you not to give up. Show everyone what a girl from Union Peak can do." In his mansion, Nick Harrison studied the collected files on the Johnson family. The folder lay on his desk like damning evidence against a political rival. Photographs of the house where they lived, financial records, a copy of the father's sentence. All of it was a weapon. The only question was when to use it. Nick knew he had just one chance to strike decisively. If he chose the wrong moment or the wrong way to present the information, he could appear as a cruel fool rather than a champion of justice. An audience was necessary, many witnesses, and a reason that would make his actions justified in the eyes of those around him. He waited patiently like a predator, lying in wait. And after a week, such a moment presented itself. December. The moment of truth. December in Beverly Hills was a time of preparation for the holidays, when even the most cynical residents allowed themselves a touch of magic and warmth. Streets were decorated with garlands, expensive shop windows displayed Christmas arrangements, and the air was filled with the scent of mulled wine and baked goods from cafes. St. Margaret School was also getting ready for winter break. Corridors were adorned with Christmas trees, walls with festive posters, and special events appeared on the schedule. Concerts, exhibitions, and charity drives. However, for the Stanford family, December became a month of making final decisions. The house was officially put up for sale. The realtor warned that with the market conditions, the process could drag on for months, but there was no other option. Patricia said to her daughter, We will move into a rented apartment after the new year. Starting with the new semester, you will attend a public school in Santa Monica." Victoria nodded. Over the past weeks, she had come to terms with the idea of change. More than that, she was looking forward to it with relief. "And how will we explain this to people?" she asked. "With the truth. We will say that we are facing financial difficulties and need to save money. People will gossip. Let them gossip. The worst thing is not what others say about you, but what you think about yourself." These words. Victoria recalled a conversation with Lily about the importance of staying true to oneself, regardless of others' opinions. Over the past few months, her friendship with this remarkable girl had taught her a great deal. At school, the festive atmosphere blended with typical teenage dramas. The traditional winter dance was being planned, and the girls were chatting about dresses, hairstyles, and dates. Lily, as usual, stayed away from these discussions. "Are you going to the dance?" Victoria asked her during lunch. "No," she replied. "Why?" "Because I do not have a suitable dress, nor the money for one. Could we figure something out? Rent one?" Victoria, renting a dress for such an event costs more than my mother earns in a week. Then we could make something ourselves. Lily smiled, touched by her friend's concern. "Thanks, but no need. I do not really like dancing. It is not about dancing. It is about your right to be part of this community. Do I have that right? Sometimes it feels like I am here only by favor." Victoria was about to respond, but was interrupted by Nick's arrival. He came up to their table with his usual group. "Lily," he said with a wide smile, "I was thinking about our talk about family matters." "What talk?" "When you explained why you could not come to parties, I wondered what could be more important than socializing." "Nick, leave her alone," Victoria intervened. "I am not bothering, just curious about a classmate's life. After all, we go to the same school and should know each other better." "We must. We know each other well enough," Lily replied coldly. "Really? I think I don't know you at all. For example, what do your parents do?" "I've already told you, my father works in construction, my mother is between jobs." "Yes, you mentioned that, but you avoided the details." Nick's voice carried a hint that made Lily uneasy. "What kind of details?" "Well, where exactly does your father work? What was his previous job? Why did he have to change professions?" Lily felt her heart start to race. Nick was clearly hinting at something. "This is private information. Of course, everyone deserves privacy, but sometimes it helps to be open with friends. We are not friends." Nick's smile grew wider. "That's a shame. I thought we could become friends, especially considering how much we supposedly have in common." "We have nothing in common. Actually, we do. For example, we both know what it feels like when parents make mistakes that affect their children." Lily turned pale. Victoria sensed the situation was becoming serious. "What do you mean?" she asked. "That every family has skeletons in the closet. Some have more than others." Nick pulled out his phone and started searching for something. "For instance, I wonder if the school administration knows that one of our students is a daughter of a convicted criminal." Lily's world started spinning. This was the moment she had feared since her first day at St. Margaret's. "Nick, what are you doing?" Victoria demanded sharply, sharing some interesting information. "Want to hear about what Daddy, our modest scholarship recipient, spent 2 years in a federal prison for fraud?" Several students at nearby tables turned towards them, drawn by the raised voices. "Enough," whispered Lily. "Enough. But we have only just begun. Do you want me to tell everyone how your family lost their home, how your mother works as a cleaner, and how you live in the ghetto?" "Nick, shut up!" shouted Victoria. "And why should I remain silent if Lily is so proud of her family as she claims? Then why is she hiding the truth?" By this time, Half of the cafeteria was listening to their conversation. Lily felt dozens of curious eyes on her. "Please," she whispered, Don't what? Tell the truth? But isn't the truth a good thing?" Nick turned towards the gathered students. "Guys, did you know that Lily Johnson is only here because her family is so poor they qualify for a charity program? That her father, Thomas Johnson, went to prison for helping people cheat banks?" "Enough." Victoria stood up and grabbed Nick's arm. "Take your hands off me," she said sharply. "Or do you want me to tell everyone about your family's financial problems too?" Victoria walked away. So he knew about them as well. He knew. "Yes, Victoria. I know that Dr. Stanford is on the verge of bankruptcy, that your house is mortgaged, and that you will soon no longer be a St. Margaret's student." Now the entire cafeteria was listening to this exchange. Lily sat as white as chalk. Victoria stood with clenched fists, and Nick, he was pleased with the impact he had made. "Do you know what is interesting?" he continued. "These two friends found each other because they both fabricated stories about their lives. Both pretended to be someone they were not. We have not lied to anyone," Victoria said with a trembling voice. "No." "And what about so-called lies to save oneself? When you talk about holiday plans, though, you know there is no money for trips. When Lily claims her father works in construction, but forgets to mention he is a laborer who just got out of prison." "Enough," Lily said softly as she rose from her chair. "Enough." She grabbed her backpack and headed to the exit, yet Nick was not ready to let her go that easily. "Where are you going? We are not finished talking." "We are finished," Lily replied without looking back. "Then goodbye and say hello to Daddy. Tell him kids from good families remember him." Lily paused at the dining hall door and slowly turned around. There was no fear in her eyes anymore, only a sad determination. "You know what, Nick?" she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You are right. My father went to prison for helping people get loans they could not afford. When those people lost their homes, he could have kept quiet and saved himself. But he cooperated with the investigation because he believed justice mattered more than personal gain." The dining hall went silent. No one expected such a revelation. "My mother works as a cleaner because after my father's arrest, she was fired from the school," Lily said, her voice trembling with emotion. Emotions ran high. "We live in the neighborhood you call bad because that is all we can afford." She paused, gathering her strength. "Yes, my father made mistakes. Yes, he was in prison. Yes, we are poor, but that does not make me any less than you." Some students exchanged glances. The reactions were varied. Some looked sympathetic, others uncomfortable, and some curious. "Very touching," Nick said, trying to regain control of the situation. "But you still lied to us by hiding the truth." "I did not lie to anyone," Lily replied. "I just did not share my family story with everyone because I was ashamed. No, because it is personal." Victoria stood next to Lily. "Nick, enough. You have gone too far. And you better watch out," he turned to Victoria. "Your family is not as perfect as it seems." Victoria felt her heart skip a beat. "What are you talking about?" He continued about Dr. Stanford being on the verge of bankruptcy and that their house might soon be taken by the bank. Now everyone was looking at Victoria, her cheeks flushed. "You know what, Nick?" she said, her voice firmer. "Yes, my family has problems. And do you know what else? I do not care who knows," Victoria began. Then Rachel interrupted. "No, let everyone know," Victoria went on. "Yes, we might lose our home. Yes, I might not be able to study here, but I will not pretend everything is fine." She turned to Lily. "And you should not be ashamed of your family either. Your father, Nick, paid for his mistake, while you bear no blame." "How touching," he said sarcastically. two failures standing together. It is better to be an honest failure than a wealthy scoundrel, Victoria snapped back. The dining hall instantly fell silent. Nick Harrison's blunt insult was unprecedented. At that moment, Mrs. Anderson entered the room. The teacher had heard raised voices from the corridor and came to see what was happening. "What is going on here?" she asked firmly. Everyone fell silent. Nick realized he was in serious trouble. "Mr. Harrison, Miss Stanford, Miss Johnson, come to my office," the teacher said after understanding the conflict. In the office, the students shared their versions of the events. Mrs. Anderson listened quietly, taking notes. "Mr. Harrison," she began when the stories ended, "your behavior is unacceptable. I will contact your parents and the school principal. You said the truth, but you used personal information to hurt a classmate. This is a serious violation." Nick understood he would not get off with just a warning. Turning to Victoria and Lily, the teacher said, "You conducted yourselves with dignity in this tough situation." After school, the administration reached out to the parents of all involved. James Harrison was furious when he learned about his son's behavior. The rest of the day passed in an awkward atmosphere. Some students looked at the girls with sympathy, others with curiosity, and some with newfound respect, but nobody treated them the same way anymore. After school, Victoria and Lily walked together to the bus stop. Victoria asked, "What do you think will happen next?" Lily replied, "I do not know, but at least we do not have to pretend anymore. Do you regret what happened?" Lily thought for a moment and said, "You know what? No, I do not regret it because now everyone knows who I really am, and those who stay close will be true friends." And Nick? Nick revealed his real self. Now it is clear to everyone that behind the shiny facade, there is emptiness. That evening, Lily told her parents about the incident. To her surprise, they were not upset. Her father said, "I am proud of you. You defended our family with honor." Her mother smiled and added, "But now everything is known. So what? We did nothing wrong. There is nothing to be ashamed of. And if you are expelled from school, we will find another way to get an education. The main thing is that you stayed true to yourself." Thomas Johnson hugged his daughter and said, "Lily, I know my mistake made life harder for you all, but today, you showed that it is possible to face any challenge with dignity." Important conversations were also taking place at the Stanford house. Patricia said to her daughter, "I learned about today's incident from other parents." Her daughter replied, "I told everyone about our problems." Patricia asked, "And you do not regret it?" Her daughter responded, "No, because I am tired of living a lie and realized our problems do not make us worse than others." Richard put his hand on his daughter's shoulder and said, "Victoria, I must apologize to you." She asked, "For what?" And he began to explain. "What made you carry the weight of our adult problems? For feeling like you had to hide the truth? Dad, you are not at fault. Life just happens. But how do you handle this at such a young age?" Victoria smiled. "I have a friend who taught me that true strength is not about money, but about character." Meanwhile, in the Harrison mansion, a completely different drama was unfolding. "Are you out of your mind?" James Harrison shouted at his son. "Publicly humiliating children from poor families? Do you realize what this could lead to?" "Dad, I was just being honest. You just showed the world what a spoiled brat you raised me to be." Isabella sat nearby with her head down. Calls from other parents kept coming non-stop. The video from the cafeteria had already spread across social networks. "The school called me," the father continued. "They said you might get expelled." For what? For telling the truth? For bullying? For cruelty? For using other people's pain as entertainment? Nick stayed silent, not knowing how to respond. For the first time in his life, he faced the real consequences of his actions. "You know what the worst part is," said the father. "It is not that you did it, but that you still don't get you were wrong." But they were lying. They were protecting their private lives. That was their right. James went to the window and looked at the city lights. "Nick, tomorrow you will go to school and publicly apologize to those girls. And not just apologize, you will find a way to make amends. Dad, no arguments. Either you do this willingly, or I will send you to a military school." Nick realized his father was serious. The next day, the school buzzed like a disturbed beehive. The story about the conflict became the main topic of conversation. Opinions were divided. Some felt sympathy for Lily and Victoria, while others believed they were to blame for what had happened, hiding the truth about their families. "I never thought it would go this far," Nick said to Bill during recess. He appeared downcast and avoided making eye contact with classmates. "What did you expect?" Bill replied. "That the girls would stay silent while you humiliated them. I just wanted to put Lily in her place." For what reason? For not wanting to be friends with you, Nick found no answer. For the first time in his life, he realized he was wrong, but did not know how to make it right. At home, a serious conversation awaited him with his father. "The school called me," James Harrison said as soon as his son crossed the doorstep. "They told me about your behavior." "Dad, I can explain?" "Explain what?" "How my son publicly humiliated a child from a poor family." Nick remained silent. "Do you understand that if this story reaches the media, it could damage the reputation of our whole family?" "I did not think," Nick answered. "Exactly, you did not think. Now think about how to fix this situation." "What do you mean?" "Tomorrow you apologize to those girls personally and sincerely." Nick wanted to argue, but realized he had no other option. Meanwhile, Lily and Victoria were coping with the aftermath in their own way. Some classmates began treating them differently. With great respect, others kept their distance. However, the most important change was that they no longer felt the need to hide the truth. After the meeting, a few students approached Lily Victoria. "We want to stand by you," said Rachel. "What happened was unfair. We want you to understand that your family issues do not make you any less," added Alex. By the end of the day, it became obvious that the events from the day before had shifted the atmosphere at school. Students started paying more attention to one another and became less prone to gossip and judgment. The following day, Nick approached Lily after class. He seemed unsure and uneasy. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. Lily looked at him warily. "About what?" "I want to apologize for what I did yesterday. It was wrong," he admitted. "Why did you do it?" Nick paused to find the right words. "Probably because I was angry. You ignored me, and I'm used to everyone wanting to be friends with me. So you chose to humiliate me because of that?" "Yes. It was stupid and cruel." Lily examined his face, trying to judge if he was sincere. "Nick, you must understand that trust needs to be earned, and that just saying sorry is not enough." "I get it, but I don't know how to fix the damage I caused. Stop expecting that everything and everyone owes you something, and do not use other people's problems as weapons anymore." Nick nodded. "I will try." A few weeks later, the situation at school gradually improved. Lily was still a subject of curiosity, but the intensity of gossip had calmed down. Some students even showed signs of empathy and support. They began to treat her with respect because of how she handled the conflict. Meanwhile, Victoria was preparing for the changes ahead. In January, the family indeed moved to a more modest home, and she transferred to a public school. Saying goodbye to Lily was painful, but the girls promised to stay in touch. "How are things at the new school?" Lily asked over the phone about a month after the transfer. "It feels strange but good," Victoria replied. "The kids here are simpler, less spoiled. I like it." I miss you here too. How has Nick changed? Not immediately, but gradually. Last week, I saw him helping a new student figure out the schedule. Maybe people can actually change. Some can, if they choose to. By the end of the school year, a lot had transformed. The Stanford family adapted to their new life, which was humbler, but more genuine. Richard found a job at a clinic where they treated children from low-income families. The salary was lower, but the work brought satisfaction. Lily finished the year with excellent grades and received several scholarship offers from colleges. The Johnson family was slowly recovering from the crisis, and Nick was learning to be better. It was not easy or immediate, but he learned that real strength is not about putting others down, but about helping them. On the last day of school, Lily sat under the same oak tree where it all began. Rachel sat beside her and asked, "What do you think has changed over this year?" Lily reflected deeply. Many things came to mind, but the most important was that she realized there is no reason to feel ashamed of who you are. True friends will not turn their backs on you because of your family's past. And Nick? Nick understood that wealth does not make him superior to others. This lesson was equally significant. Rachel nodded in agreement. She said, "You know, I believe this year has changed many of us. It forced us to see things from a different perspective." Lily smiled as she looked at the schoolyard where children from various backgrounds were playing, from wealthy to poor, from successful to struggling. They were all learning to live together, to understand one another, to be human. This was a valuable lesson, one worth all the challenges they had faced.